Hey, did you know that your thumbnails don't always have to be a POV shot of your guy reloading? And that you don't have to use AI-generated slop to show off your work in the workshop? My name's OV, I'm the guy behind most of Reforger's images on our socials and even in the menu for the past roughly 2 years. And I'm gonna teach you how to do some badass screenshots today. First things first, we're gonna need Arma Reforger Tools. If you own Reforger on Steam, you already own tools as well. I'm gonna mostly refer to it as Workbench, because that's what we call it internally. And I already have it ready on my desktop here. Let's open it up. And I'm starting with a blank slate. First things first, we're gonna need to create a new project. I'm gonna call this one Photography. And this is Workbench. First, we're gonna need a scene. To do that, we're gonna use the world editor, which is where we open our terrains. I can either open a world editor and then find the terrain, or I can just find the terrain immediately in here in the resource browser. Let's do Arma Reforger, worlds, and vanilla terrains. We have Ireland, Cain, and Eden. Eden is Everald, Cain is Kolguev. So let's open up Cain. There it is. And here is our world, all loaded in. Let's give it a few seconds for everything else to load in. And we're good. Well, we can't see much of the terrain, so let's do some basics. I'm gonna go to the camera menu up here in the top left corner, and I'm going to view aspect ratio, set it by 16:9. Next thing, I'm gonna go to far plane, and I usually set it to 50K, because that lets me see pretty much the entirety of the island, regardless of where I am. As you can see, I can see all the way to Kamensk. And the next one I'm gonna set is near plane. Right now it's set to 0.1, which, you know, normal player wouldn't have any issues with, but if you get close to subjects or objects, you can start seeing some clipping. Let's see, I'm here very close to this silo thingy, and if I start getting close like here, you see I'm clipping through it. So I can't really do close-up shots. So what I'm gonna do, camera settings, near plane, I'm gonna add zeros before the 1. Boom. And now I can get really close to whatever I want without being affected. Pretty much all the way in. Okay, this is the basic world editor layout, which works for most terrain creation scenarios, but we're here to take pictures. So I'm gonna do a little reorganizing. First of all, I'm gonna make my hierarchy a little bigger so I can see full names. I'm gonna take my resource browser, move it over here, make it bigger because I'm using that a lot. I'm gonna close my prefab library, never use it. I don't need to use log console. I'm gonna make the object properties bigger. That helps a lot. And now we have this empty space down here for the most important part of world editor photography, and that is cinematic timeline. And let's make it bigger. There we go. Let me just organize that. Resource browser, I only have one at the moment. We can open 2, which helps with organizing all your assets. So let me get a second one and drag it over here. And now I have 2 resource browsers. I can just quickly switch between them. So this is our scene. It's the vanilla terrain of Kolguev, which I cannot edit. It's locked. You can see all of these layers, or whether one default layer is locked. I cannot add anything to it. We're gonna need to create a subscene. So I'm gonna click this new icon up here, create new world, create a subscene of current world. And now we have our own subscene. It's unnamed at the moment because I haven't saved the world yet. So let's save it. I'm gonna save it in my project that I created at the start, which was named Photography, and I'm gonna name this one Kolguev Epic Scene. I don't have a rough idea yet of what we're gonna be taking picture of, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be epic. Alright, now our subscene is called Kolguev Epic Scene, and we have a default layer. Think of your layers as layers in Photoshop. You can add stuff to it without affecting the sub layer, which is the vanilla terrain. So the first thing we're gonna need to add to it is a scene from the cinematic timeline. Let's say we're gonna do a combat scene with a vehicle. So add scene, I'm gonna name it Vehicle Combat. And now we have our cinematic timeline ready to go. First I'm gonna hit play. It's just good measure, so all the keyframes I'm gonna be adding to it start registering right from the start. You can set the amount of keyframes you want it to be, but we're doing stills, so we're usually just staying to 0. Since 1.6 came out, we've gotten a lot of cinematic tracks that we can work with. All of these allow us to do so much. I'm gonna work with multiple of these, not all of them, because some of them are made specifically for video creation or for cutscene creation. So, weather track. That's how we set our weather. No need to change the name. And it's black. Why is that? Well, because our time is set to 0, which is midnight. I'm gonna make a keyframe for our time, and then I can just slide this around until I find the time of day I like. We always have to wait a few seconds for the shadows to render. Midday sun is kinda boring, so let's do something more interesting. It's a sloped terrain, so if we're gonna do, let's say, a sunset, we want to stay on the west side. Drag it down to, yeah, let's say 5:30. There we go. Now we get some nice shadows, some orange glow, and Hammerton looks very nice in this light. Alright, but the sky is kind of boring, it's flat, so we got weather types. In vanilla you got 4 weather types. 0 is clear, 1 is cloudy, 2 is overcast, 3 is rainy. You can then use your weather manager to tweak this a little more. I'm just gonna stick to the basics. 1, which is cloudy, and there we go. You may run into an issue of, currently it's not a problem because our clouds are not in the way of the sun, but you may run into an issue of clouds rendering shadows on the ground, which, yeah, it's realistic, but for an image it could be problematic, because you want to have an interesting looking sky, but you want to have nice shadows on the ground of the actual objects, not the clouds. So what we can do is go into our resource browser, find volumetric clouds, that emat, and over here I'm just gonna untick cast shadows, save it. Oh, this is a vanilla terrain, it's not letting me save, but even though it's not saved at the moment for this current session, it's saved in the world. So even if I set, let's say, fully overcast, I can still see the sunlight reaching the ground. Because if I was to start moving this, for example, let me see here, there. Whoop, sun's behind the clouds, but I can still see the sunlight on the ground. So now I get much more dynamic light, and I still get interesting sky without boring blue, clear sky. Let me go back to the same time, there we go. All of these can be also adjusted, so we just do a keyframe, set specifics, we can change the wind speed, we can change the wind direction, we can change the wetness. Let me show you somewhere where it's visible, so let's do on the ground here, on these cobblestones, and I can change the wetness, I can change the puddles, I can also change the fog, which is different depending on the elevation. So if I do a lot of fog, you can see it's much stronger at the coast, but up high it really doesn't do much. We can raise the height. There we go. Now we get very foggy coast, but up top not as much. Still get the nice depth from the fog in the distance. There we go. That's much more. Oh well, there we go. That's a lot of fog. So let me nerf that a little. Let's do the height about here. Amount over here. Yeah, that's more manageable. It tells the depth of the terrain in the distance, but it's not in the way. Alright, let's find an interesting scene with good lighting. There we go, this looks pretty interesting. That's a nice little composition over here. We're gonna move it around a little more. So, Now we need to add some assets. That's where our resource browser comes in. We got everything here. We got prefabs for all kinds of items, including vehicles, weapons, characters, structures, props, items. You name it, you find it here. I already have them bookmarked, so I got easier access to them. So if we want to add a vehicle, let's just go to vehicles, wheeled, and let's do Americans fighting for their life next to a Humvee. So we'll do a 997 or 998. We have these variants here. The 998, which is the standard Humvee, 997, which is the ambulance, and 1025, which is the armored version. Let's do 1025 armed, just pure olive. I don't want the camo version at the moment. Let's rotate it this way so we got some nice sunlight on it. And if we want to place it on the ground, control arrow down puts everything directly on the level of the surface underneath it. But as you can see, the wheels aren't aligned. So you do control shift down instead, and that aligns it with the actual surface. Might not be exactly perfect for everything. For example, helicopters, you might have to realign them. The basic controls that you're gonna wanna learn for working with World Editor, you got your move tool, you got your rotate tool. Those you can switch by pressing W or E on the keyboard. W for move, E for rotate, R for resize if you plan to resize anything, and pressing G hides everything from the actual Word editor. As you can see, there we go. All the outlines, all the tools, everything's hidden. That's what we're gonna use when we're gonna be pressing the screenshot. So we have our Humvee here, looking pretty interesting. All right, let's make this a little dynamic. It's not gonna be exactly according to what's happening in the game, but you know, we're just making a picture. So I'm gonna go into the Humvee, which I have renamed to HM to keep it as short as possible. And I wanna show it as proper damaged. So I'm gonna do a few things. In the slot manager, I'm gonna find the front left wheel, which is the L01. And I'm gonna place it somewhere on the side to show it's been blown off, for example, that they hit a mine or IED or something. So I'm gonna just find it in the resource browser by clicking this little loop that navigates directly to where the wheel can be found. I'm just gonna place it here on the ground. Like this. Some of these props you're gonna have to place by hand like this. You cannot rely on the control shifted down feature all the time. I'm just trying to avoid clipping because some of these prefabs or meshes don't have the bottom set in the correct spot. So if I was to do control shift down, this is what happens because it's set in the center and to stand upright. There we go. But now I have a spare wheel. So I'm gonna go here, and over here I can either right click and do no value, or I can just disable the slot entirely. And boom. My Humvee now suddenly has no wheel. Now I just need to position it correctly. The wheel on the back, we're gonna have to move a little. That's L02. We can do offset, move it up slightly. And the R02, we're gonna move it down slightly. There we go. And now we just need to rotate the Humvee itself so it's not clipping, but it's actually standing on the ground. Yeah, that looks... Yeah, it's clipping over here, but that's not visible in the shot. I'm gonna have a character turn there as well. Alright, that looks pretty cool. Now we gotta open the door. And to do that, we're gonna use a bone animation track. With bone animation track, I can just name it by the name of the actual asset I'm trying to move, which in this case is HM. And after an underscore, I can name it whatever I want. The part after the underscore is just for my own organization, so I know what track I'm referring to. The only thing the name after the underscore cannot contain is more underscores, because that's just gonna confuse the engine. So I'm just gonna do door LF, which is left front for me. And we're gonna do V door L01. If you don't know the name of the bone, no problem. You can always just right click the actual prefab, do open prefab, and over here we can find it. We see all the bones, and if I find the door L01, there you see, that's the bone I'm trying to move. If the name is too long, you don't want to type it out, you just click the name of the bone, Control C, and here Control V, just paste it right in there. I'm going to create a keyframe for yaw pitch roll, and now I can actually see move the door. So let me just make it open like this. That works. Okay, let's add some characters to the scene. So we're gonna head to our prefabs. We're gonna have to find characters, factions, blue form. It's a Humvee, so let's do Americans. Control S. You always want to save. No matter what, you never know when you're gonna get a crash. It can happen. So our US Army, and here we have characters. These are all the pre-made loadouts we have, plus Green Berets, guards, various. All of these can be edited to whatever you want, so they're just starting points. What I'm going to do is I'm just gonna take an unarmed. There's less work with the unarmed ones. And that is our basic character. Now let's make him look the part. So we have all of these components that are tied to this one special prefab or entity. For example, character identity. Here we can change the face, the body type. So let's give him a base body, just a basic white one, and a different head. You can just click the loop. It will guide you to the original folder from where the head is being used from. And here we have all the basic heads, and we also have the camouflaged versions. So let's say I'm gonna take the white 05 face. Let's close in so you can see the difference. And here we have US camo 2 variants and USSR camo 2 variants. So let's give him this one. Boom. And that's our basic guy with a camo on his face. This is the second variant. This is the Soviet variant. So that's our guy. But what about his clothes and his equipment? Some of that is done here in the loadout manager. And here we can see all the slots he has available for his equipment. So for example, hat. He's got just a basic patrol cap. Let's give him a boonie hat. Here we can just click on the loop, and the resource browser is gonna take us to where the hat is being taken from, which is the folder with all the headgear available. Let's pick a boonie, and here we have tiger stripe boonie. Just drag it in, boom, he's got a boonie. I'm gonna quickly dress him with everything else. Jacket. Let's find a tiger stripe one. We have a basic variant, and we have a rolled up variant. Same with the pants. No rolled up variant. There it is. I'm not gonna give him an armored vest, but I'm gonna give him a normal vest. Let's find it here again. Characters, vests, Alice, variants, and I'm gonna give him a rifleman variant. There we go. Now he's looking the part. We can also do handwear, backpacks, boots, armored vest, you name it. Backpack, yeah, let's give him a backpack. Why not? Those we can find not in characters, but in items. Equipment, backpacks. Alice, don't forget to use the assembled one. That's the one that has the actual metal cage on it. On second thought, it's clipping. I don't like clipping in my images, so let's just take it out. Now we need him to do a pose. We need him to look animated. And there is no component on the characters that lets us do that at the moment. So we need to add a component. To do that, we just click down here, add component. And now we just need to search for the right component to find. Easiest way to do it, type in player, and we're gonna find animation player component. And this is what controls the animation of the character. But whatever I put in here, it's not gonna affect the character at the moment because he doesn't have a track on the timeline and he doesn't have a name set. So we're gonna call this guy US. And I'm gonna do an animation track, name it as a character US. And now I can find some animations, give them to the guy, and he should be in the right pose. So the basic animations you can start with are in the anim folder, editor poses. Those are still pre-made poses, they don't move. Whatever you get, like for example rifleman, boom, there he is as a rifleman. Or as a sniper, boom, he's in a sniper pose. All of these can be used. We also have much more other animations, also animated. So for example, NPC, male, let's see, for example, violent, and we do crouched with a rifle, run to idle left. There we go. The track we just have to change to play, and now our guy's actually animated. So we can find the slot or the frame we like something like this. We can also of course rotate him around. Let's see what it looks like if we do on the right side. We can do dodging with a rifle, with a weapon low or raised. So let's do raised, crouch, dodge front. Whoop. There we go. That's our pose. I kind of like the first one. So I'm going to untick play. And now whenever I move my timeline, he's stuck in the first pose. Let's move him over here by the Humvee. And let's also make sure he's sitting on the ground correctly. See, clipping over there, but his knee is kind of in the air. Which I guess if he's mid-roll would make sense. There we go. He's in a pose. Well, he doesn't have a gun in his hands yet. And his hands aren't exactly set up to hold a gun, as you see. So let's fix that. Let's give him a weapon. We find it in, again, prefabs, weapons, rifles. We got a, in workbench it's called the M14, but in game it's the M21. M16, SVD, VZ58, AKs. So let's give him a M16. Let's make it a suppressed sandstripe red dot version. Wait a minute. I said suppressed. Why is it not suppressed? That's okay, because all the weapons have attachment slots and we can mix and match. Here you can see all of these components can be changed. So for example, handguard can be changed, sights can be changed, muzzle, magazines, all of this. So for his muzzle, he currently has a flash hider. I'm just gonna go to attachments, muzzles, suppressors, and let's do sandstripes version. Boom. Now the rifle has got a suppressor. If I was to, for example, change the red dot to a 4x, I just find the corresponding slot. And in there, I can just pop in 4x20. Or I can just disable the slot and he's got the standard old school iron sights. That looks more epic. Let's keep it that way. Now we just need to move it in the right position. The left hand looks okay. I'm not gonna be touching that. Well, alright, I will have to. The scene doesn't really have the right hand in view, so I'm not gonna bother with making sure the hand actually fits the grip, but we're gonna make sure that the left hand at least holds the foregrip correctly. And to do that, I'm gonna once again use a bone animation track. Again, name it by the name of the entity, which in this case is US. And here we can put whatever name we want. Again, I have a system because I'm moving a lot of bones during my day. What a sentence. And I need to make it streamlined. So if I'm gonna be adjusting the entire left arm, the left arm is comprised of multiple different bones. I'm gonna do LS, which is left shoulder. Again, if you don't know what the bones are called, you can always open the prefab, click on it, go to Mesh, Bones, and here you can see all of the bones. And I found the left shoulder. Boom, that's my left shoulder. I also have left arm, left forearm, left hand. These four are the ones I'm going to be using. I'm going to try avoid using left arm twist or left forearm twist, because those can lead to some unnatural looking poses. So that's my left shoulder. And now to speed it up, since 1.6 we now have track duplication. So I'm just gonna do Control D, rename this one to LA, and that's my left arm. Duplicate LFA, and that's my left forearm. And last but not least, LH, and that's my, you guessed it, left hand. Now we have these four bones that we can now manipulate. Bones should stay attached to the body, so I'm not gonna change their position, but I'm just gonna change their yaw, pitch, and roll. So let's create keyframes for all of these. And looking at it, shoulder's okay. I don't think I need to move it at all. Arm should be okay as well. I just need to do a minor adjustment to the forearm itself, so I probably didn't even need to create those first two. It's just a matter of habit. So now I can move the left forearm just a bit so it actually corresponds to the foregrip of the weapon. And I can do the same with the hand. Don't need to rotate it too much. Just shift it slightly this way, up, there. So now the hand's resting under the foregrip correctly. And now we just need to make sure the fingers fit. Let's make it a little higher, just a smidge. I know this isn't even gonna be in the final shot, but I just like these details. Alright, and now the fingers. They're comprised of 5 individual bones, or 4 individual bones. I'm going to show you. Open prefab, mesh, bones, and here you can see each finger has 5 bones. Left hand middle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I avoid using the bone number 1 almost all the time, which is, for example, middle 1, because look where it is, all the way up here, and moving it makes it look super weird. So I'm never using this one. So yeah, that's the bones I usually touch. 2, 3, 4. Again, I'm just gonna duplicate my left hand track, but I'm gonna name it LHT, which is left hand thumb for me. Number 2. And because I duplicated it from the hand itself, it already has all of the coordinates here. So let me just zero these. Oh, 0. And now we got a fresh start. No clipping. There we go. If you want to be super precise, you can always type these in manually. So let's say I want to do 2, or let's see, 35. Something like this. You can always type these in manually. I could also spend more time getting these fingers to fit correctly, but my scene is viewed from this angle. No one's ever gonna see that. The only thing visible is the thumb, so I'm not gonna waste time on it at the moment. If it was my shot that I would do for any of our promotional materials, I would probably do those fingers, but that's just my personal problem. I'm not gonna waste your time with it right now. There's not much happening in the foreground. This is the middle ground, so let's add a character to the foreground. We can save our time by just taking the US guy, and now I can just Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V, and this is my second character, but he looks exactly the same, so let's make him a little different. We're gonna go to our loadout manager. For his headgear, I'm gonna change it from the boonie to our past GT helmet. Let's give him the one with the goggles, because it always looks nice with the light on. Our jacket, let's give him a woodland camo. Rolled up. Now let's do long sleeves this time. We also have to change the pants so they actually fit the color scheme we're going for. Let's give this guy gloves. So we're gonna go to handwear, gloves palette US. Now he's got gloves. Let's also give him an armored vest. We're gonna go to vests. Wrong click, past GT. And because this guy is no special forces, he looks like a regular grunt. We're gonna go to the identity component, find the face, go back to heads, and give him, let's say, 06. Oop. There we go. That's our basic dude. Some of you may have noticed that in 1.6 the faces have gone through an overhaul in terms of clarity, detail, resolution, especially the eyes got a huge upgrade. Alright, and that's our guy named US2. Try to avoid numbers in the names because it makes duplicating tracks a little iffy. So I'm gonna call this guy MN because that's gonna be our main guy in the shot. And because I copied him from this person, he already has an animation player component with the same animation. We're gonna change it to something else. Also, these are not the only animations we have available in the workbench. You also have animations in assets for individual vehicles, individual weapons, props, all that stuff. You can also just filter by animations over here. Let's go back to the original folder and we can see all the animations available here. There's a lot of them, so you can also search. Let's say I want to grab a driver death animation. Driver death. We got them for all of these vehicles. But right now we're gonna get something like jump with rifle. Let's see what this looks like. No, that looks kind of strange. Jump low in. Whoop. So you can really look to whatever animation you want. Sprint jump. Okay, let's see. Okay, this one looks okay. Now he looks... Oh, you know what? I'm not even going to use the jump bit. I'm just going to use the sprint bit. I just want him to look like he's running. Like this. That works. Let's move him a little closer. So he fills the scene a little more. That works. And of course, let's make sure he's standing on the ground without any clipping. There we go. Kind of looks like he's missing a leg, but you know. Okay, let's do it like this. This way he's not missing a leg. And that's the fourth frame of the animation. If I wanted my guy to stay in this position, I can either just untick this, And now anything past the 4th frame, he's not gonna move. So he's gonna always go to the 4th frame and he's gonna stay there. I can also change these display units to seconds. I see it's at 0.01 seconds. So I'm gonna set the start time to 0.1 seconds. And now I untick play, and now my cinematic track is gonna start the animation at 0.1 seconds, but it's not gonna move anywhere. So the guy is permanently frozen in this pose. So let's give him a weapon. And make sure it fits in his hands and it's not clipping into the vest, into the body armor, anything. We might need to do some bone animations here because his hand is a little too close to his body, and that would make the weapon clip. In that case, you already know what's coming. Right now the hand is a little further away from the body, so we have a little more room to actually manipulate the weapon. Okay, that's a solid starting point, and now we're just gonna animate all of the individual bones to fit the weapon. So first I'm gonna start with the middle finger, make sure it's holding the gun correctly. Oh, it's a little too far back, so let me shift the gun forward just a little bit. There we go. I was looking at the front, looking good. Yep. Alright, so now I'm gonna RHM, which is the right hand, middle 2, and the middle axis, the y-axis, opens and closes the fingers. The x-axis rotates them on the knuckle, and this one shifts it up and down. So I'm just gonna close the hand a little. I need to make sure it's not looking odd from the front, especially. That's where the shot's gonna be taken from. That looks okay. And now I can just duplicate it. It's automatically gonna give me RHM2. And I just need to change the name of the bone itself to the 3rd bone. And as you can see, that one is a little too much. So let's open it up a little. Duplicate, rename to number 4. Oh, also, let me zero these two, because we're just moving the finger in and out. There we go. An index finger I'm gonna do a little different, because of course, keep that booger picker of the trigger. So we'll do index 2, 0 all of these. And let's make sure that finger is off the trigger and in the right position. Alright, we got no clipping. His finger is not on the trigger, it's resting on this little bit here. That looks much better. Alright, now we just need to match the left arm to the gun. But let's make it a little more interesting. What we're gonna do is we're gonna make the guy run out of ammo, and that's why he's running away at the moment, just to reload safely, because he's under fire. So we're gonna animate his left arm, left shoulder, see, this is why I choose quick and easy names, because you get to type them out a lot when you're trying to animate characters. The bone names, yeah, we cannot really skimp. The game needs to know, or the engine needs to know what bone you're actually going for. But the names for the tracks that I myself use, I need to keep them as simple as possible because I'm making a lot of them. Left hand. So he's holding his gun in his right hand. And we're gonna move his shoulder a little further away from the body because I don't want it to clip here into the Alice pouch, into the LC2 pouch. Because what I want to do, I'm gonna select the gun, go to the attachment component. Here's our magazine. Let me just find it in the resource browser and drop it in here. Rotate it in the right position. Because you know how all the YouTube thumbnails are with guns reloading from point of view. We can make the same, but from a better point of view. Fingers we're gonna do in a second, but from the gun we need to remove the magazine. And to do that, I just right click here, set to no value. And now the gun has got no magazine. But wait a second, if you run empty on an M16, the bolt should stay open, right? So I'm gonna rename the gun M16. Let me close these bone tracks. Bone animation track, M16, bolt, W, bolt, that's the name of the bone. If you don't know how to find it, again, right click, open prefab, mesh, bones, there you see it. W bolt is the one I'm looking for. This one, I'm not going to be changing the position, the yaw page roll off, I'm going to be changing the position. Here we have to be careful because it's a very small movement that we're trying to do. I just need to find the correct axis. So it's not X, it's not Y, so it's going to be the Z axis. There we go. Let me move the bolt back a little. Now you can see gun's empty. And because this guy knows how to handle his weapons, even though his gun's empty, he's not actually intending to shoot at the moment, but his safety is set to semi. That's not right. Even on the other side, it's actually clipping into his thumb, but because we haven't moved the thumb. So I'm gonna find this bone over here, which should be, where do we see it? There, fire mode. W fire mode, Control C on that. Let me duplicate this track. Fire mode, W, never mind. Fire mode, and whoops. Because I duplicated it from the bolt, it would actually move it somewhere further back here. So I just need to zero the position, it's back, and I need to rotate the fire mode. To, nope, not this axis, that's the one. So we're gonna rotate it to save. And on the other side, you can see the same. You can actually align it with the stop. It should be 90 degrees, so that's usually 1.5. All right, not enough, let's do more. 1.56. All right, and now the gun is safe. It's empty, it's safe, he's running away. Now we just need to align the magazine with his hand. See, now he looks like he's actually holding a magazine. Let's also do the little finger, because we're not here drinking tea. P for pinky. Pinky 2. And let's be quick with this one. I've already taken enough of your time. Yeah, that's enough. Alright, now the guy's running away. He's got to reload real quick, but he's under fire. This is gonna be our frame, roughly. Okay. It's still a fairly empty scene. Oh, there's one thing I haven't done in a long time, and that is Control S. Always do Control S. It's still a fairly empty scene. So let's take another guy. Same one. MN2. Let's rename this guy GN because he's the gunner. Give him an animation. He's not gonna like this one. Sometimes finding these is a little tricky. I'm trying to find the animation of a guy inside the M2 turret being dead. So I don't have to animate bone by bone how he's actually lying there. So we have to do it a different way. Let's do assets, vehicles, wheeled, 998, animations. Here we have them all. And we need to find not passenger, not driver. Okay, it's not here. Weapons, heavy weapons, M2HB, animations. Ah, there we go. You haven't seen that. There it is. M2, aim space. No, we want death. There we go. Gunner. 998. Unconscious. Finally, it's unconscious, not death. Yeah, sometimes it can take a while, but I found it. We want, let's say, a loop, unconscious. He's gonna be falling on the left side. Unconscious, left loop. If we want him aligned exactly with the vehicle, you can move him around, you know, with the move and rotate tools. That does work, but it's a lot of work. What we can also do is just select the vehicle, find its transformation, copy group properties, click the character, paste properties, and now he's in the exact same rotation as the vehicle. Now I just need to give him the right position, which is a lot easier now. Poor guy. Yeah, he's gonna be clipping a little bit, but nothing that's gonna be visible on the shot. And because we have this new feature where when you get shot in the head, your helmet flies off. Let's take this helmet, just a basic one. Nope, not this one. This one. Pop it over here on the Humvee. Rotate it so it's actually in an interesting position. Move it up slightly. Make sure it's not clipping. Have I mentioned I had clipping in my shots? I know some of my shots do have clipping in them. You don't have to point it out because I know about all of them. But I only noticed after publishing. Alright. Yeah, there's a current bug when the M2 turret doesn't have texture on the belt, but we know about it. It's getting fixed. Alright, and now I'm just gonna remove the helmet from the guy. And there we go. I have a dead gunner. Well, he's looking a little clean, isn't he? Oh, it's the same head as this guy. That's what. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Let's go back. Find the head. Give him a different one. Let's do 03. And now I want it to look like he's been shot. So what I can do is I can find the head, inherit it in my project, pop it in here, and on the mesh object, there we go, I got all these emats, these textures. So I'm gonna find the one with the wound. I'm gonna drop it over here and on the neck bit as well. That is over here. Boom. Apply changes to prefab. That's the one I've inherited. It's not the vanilla one. And now if I delete this, and I find my guy, photography, prefabs, characters, heads, I should be able to give him a bloody head. There we go. And now we have a character with a bloody head. You can even see that he got shot in the head. Poor guy. Alright, So that's our 3 Americans, a small crew of the Humvee that just got ambushed, and it's not looking too good for them, but it's still a very sterile shot. There is really not much happening. This guy is very hard to see, he's dark. We're gonna get into lighting, effects. We're not gonna put an enemy in there, because you don't always see the enemy in Reforger. That's the beauty of it. So, lighting. For that we use the Create tab, and here we just look for light entity. Drag it into the scene, and that gives us a light entity. I can move it around, I can do whatever I want with it. And here are all of its properties. Let's make this bigger. So, right now it's a point light. There is this LV, that's how powerful the light is. It's set to 0, which means it's off. I can make it 20, which is very bright. And we can also see the lens flare. We don't want to see the lens flare at the moment, so we're gonna go down here to lens flares, type disabled. So now the light is emitting light, but it has no lens flare, because this light is gonna be invisible to the light source is gonna be invisible. It's just gonna be illuminating our character, so it actually is visible on camera. Let's change it from point to spotlight. Change the spot angle to slant them a little narrower, and radius something a little longer, so it has a better reach. And here you can nicely see where the light is shining, what it's doing. So we're gonna light our character from this angle. I don't want to light the ground too much. And now if I just play with the LV, you can see I'm getting some light on the guy from the side. And now he's already standing out from the background a lot better. You can change the color of the light. That fits better with the scene. And we can also do the same from the other side, because there's sunlight from this side. So let's give the guy some nice rim light. I can also just duplicate this light, move it wherever I want. Thanks to inverse square law, the closer the light source is, the more powerful it is. Alright, now my guy already stands out from the background much nicer. He's got a nice definition on the gun and on his face, but his front is still a little too dark. So I'm gonna take the same light, copy it, paste it here. We're gonna light our guy from the front a little bit, not much. Let's get back to the shot. Oh yeah, he stands out much better now, but he's a little yellow. So let's change the color to white. And just to see the difference, I'm gonna select all these 3 lights and I'm gonna disable them. You see the massive difference the lights make? He just stands out so much better now. If I was to move the character, but the lights are all sitting in the same spot, there's no problem with that. I can just take these 3 lights, drag them over my main guy, which is the MN over here. He's gonna reset his position, but I just move my timeline back. And now, whenever I have the character selected and I'm moving him around, he's moving with the lights. But I forgot to attach the magazine and the rifle to him. So let's do that. We have the M16 and we have the magazine. Attach it to the guy as well. Boom. And now if I move him, I'm moving the character, the gun, the magazine, and the lights all at the same time. Anywhere I want. Saves me a lot of time if I'm repositioning assets. Okay, so that's our basic positioning. Now let's get into some particle effects. This is where the shots start getting epic. So particle effects we have in particles and also in assets. Particles are the generic ones. In assets you can find them specifically for each guns, for each attachment. For example, an M16 with a muzzle, with a flash hider or without a flash hider has a different particle. All of this. We're gonna put some smoke in here. We're gonna put some fire. And we're also gonna... Well, we can't really do a muzzle flash at the moment. If we were to do a muzzle flash, we can. I just need to make this M16 carbine little less cool by just... Am I blind? There it is. Returning back to original flash hider. Yeah. Just so we can have a muzzle flash in this shot. So let's find it. M16, muzzle, flash hider or open. There you go. So let's do the one with the flash hider, but there's a problem with muzzle flashes, and that is they're flashes. They're super quick. As you can see, it's gone. And now I don't see it. How am I supposed to take a shot with it? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna inherit it or override it in my project, open it, and this is the particle effect editor, and all of these are what is controlling how the muzzle flash looks and behaves. And they're all very quick. So I just need to make them last a lot longer. And that I can find here in the lifetime. 0.050 is not long enough, so I'm just gonna do 10,000, copy it, and paste it on every single one of these. We could do it just on the ones that are affected, but that would take a little too long to explain, so I'm just gonna put it on all of them, the roses as well, which is the flames coming out through the flash hider slits. But it's also moving, as you can see. Whoop, let me go here. See, it's still moving, which we wanna prevent from happening. So velocity, we'll have to set all of these to 0. 0. Once you have this saved, you can use it for any of the images you're making in the future, because you just don't have to redo it again. I just have it saved in my... That's all 0. Yeah, everything's 0 now. So if I save this now, close the particle editor, and now because I was looking for M16 muzzle, I already have the one I just made over here. Now I can just rotate it to the position I want it to be in. If you see checkers on the arrows, that means they're behind something. So that way you know that now I'm aligned with this, but it's below the barrel. And there you go. That's where it is. So I need to move it up high and a little forward. And now if I go back to my guy, he's got a muzzle flash. Now he's shooting. If I wanted to be super pedantic about this, I could also move the bolt, which we're not gonna see in this shot, so I'm not gonna bother. But we're gonna do a 5.56 prefabs, and we need to find the bullet case. 5.56. Move it here, rotate it a little. If I'm gonna go back to my original view, yep, there it is. There's the bullet case. It's just popping off because the guy just took a shot. Alright, that's the first particle effect. Second, a Humvee's been destroyed, like the wheel fell off. So we're gonna do engine fire, small, and let's put it right in the engine. Yeah, now this guy's got a right idea of running away. This guy's being a hero. The engine is giving us all the smoke, all the lighting, everything, the engine fire. Because all of that is already in the particle effect. I rarely edit these. Let's add some bullet holes. So for this, we don't have any vanilla bullet hole decals, so we're gonna have to get a little creative. They're oil stains small, that's usually the one I start with. Here you can see this little red arrow that shows you where the decal is being applied. We just move it here on the front. And if I rotate it so the arrow touches the vehicle, I just need to untick terrain only. Now it applies the decal to anything, as you can see. And the white box or the white cube is where the decal is being applied. But we're not going for an oil stain, we're going for a bullet hole. So we just need to replace the EMAT. So for that we're gonna do hit, metal, EMAT, or impact. There we go, impact EMAT. Replace the EMAT, and now it's a bullet hole. We just need to make it a lot smaller. Place it here, Control C, Control V. Why is it placing it so far away? It's placing it through the Humvee. Rotate so it's not in the same spot. Can even twist it a little so it looks like the bullet came from an angle. Another one here. Another one here. Right, now we got 4 bullet holes in here. This one's kind of off. We need to shift it a little. There, that looks much better. Alright, we got 4 bullet holes. That's looking pretty cool. We can also do a hit PTC, which is a particle effect, and it shows us all the hit particle effects. These, let's do metal enter, and let's just move it in the right spot. Rotate it so it actually corresponds with the surface. There you go, that's what it looks like. You can always replay particle effects by just clicking play on spawn, for example. So whenever you click it, it always replays the particle effect with the sparks and everything. We got all kinds of different hits, rubber for example, so we can also do a hit on the wheel itself. Let's do that. Move it onto the wheel. Let's do on top here. Rotate it so it corresponds with the surface. Boom. Rubber got hit. But those are again playing super fast. There's another trick to do this, and that is in the debug menu, which is where the magic happens. So on Windows 11, Control Windows Alt, and you get into the debug menu. Control Windows already opens it, but you're missing half of the controls, so also hold Alt as well. And here I'm gonna go into Particles, Disable Particle Update. I'm gonna set to True, and now all of my particles are frozen in time. So now all I need to do is select these 2, which were my metal and rubber impacts, play them, and now I'm gonna go to debug menu, and in a real quick sequence I'm just gonna enable particle update and disable it again. As you can see, it froze the particle in the air. I was a little too slow, so I didn't get the sparks in. We can try again. Just click play on spawn again. We got some sparks, we got some rubber being hit. It's subtle, it's there. Okay. We can also do the same with some explosions. So let's see, I'm gonna find fuel explosion. We got a few large explosion, medium, small. Some of them are very large. So if I'm gonna enable particle effect updates again, particles are moving. I'm gonna put a huge blast. That's a big one. How does it look from our shot? Right, I'm gonna keep the shot roughly here. That was pretty epic. So again, let me pause my particles, play this one, resume my particles, pause it. Now I just need to play these 2. There. I got these impacts, I got the explosion, I got the fire. Now my shot is looking pretty damn good. There's one more thing I would like to add, and that is maybe like a tracer flying through the scene so it looks a bit more dynamic. For that we do have a prefab. Tracer red, it's a mesh, not a prefab, and that's one I can move wherever. It's already preset to glow. It's a pretty big one, so we can make it a little smaller. Duplicate it, move another one over here. And there we go. Let's make this guy look in a slightly different direction. So let's do another bone animation track. MN head. The bone head moves the head. Self-explanatory. Put his head down. And let's make him look at the magazine. MN eye. And this bone we're gonna be moving is left eye. You have to be careful with the capitalization. If I was to use a lowercase e, it wouldn't work. You always have to use the exact name of the bone you wanna manipulate. And now just gonna move his left eye. So he's actually looking at the magazine. Let's move the head a little lower. Oh, he's a little bit of shade, so I guess not too low. And just so he's not lazy-eyed, I'm gonna duplicate the track and change it to right eye. And both eyes are gonna go in the same spot. There. You can also manipulate all the facial bones, nose, lips, jaw, all that stuff. Okay, I'm leaving some space around here because I usually do graphics with text and stuff, so I like to leave some empty space, but you know, go ham, you can do whatever you want. This is just a basic scene of two guys losing a fight and a third guy who's already lost it a while ago. Let's put some more decals around the scene. So let's do decal ET, burn, damage burned. There you go. Let's also be a little grim. Decal blood, because this guy has seen better days. Whoa, that's a big one. Alright, let's make it smaller. Yeah, blood isn't really a thing in vanilla when it comes to dead bodies, but it can be modded in. I've seen some people have some really interesting mods. The bloodstain wall, for example. You can do like this. Rotate it so it actually applies to the right spot. There. Oh, nope. I mean, if it's running down, it should be probably running this way. There we go. Yep, that looks pretty interesting. Okay. And just a little final touch. MI8 armed. Let's do HE gunship. Let's make their day super difficult. There's only one thing missing on the MI8, and that's the rotor isn't spinning. So what we're going to do is copy the MI8's position and rotation. We're gonna go to slot manager, disable the main rotor, disable the tail rotor. They're gone now. And for MI8, we're just gonna find MI8 blur. And here we have these two meshes, rotor blur and tail. You can then also, of course, turn them into your own prefabs and put them into the correct slots. It will make things easier for you in the long run, but right now we're just gonna make it simple. I'm gonna paste the properties of the helicopter on both of those meshes. And boom! Now my helicopter's got the rotor spinning. And just so I can actually move them together, I'm gonna take those two meshes, attach them to the helicopter. And now whenever I move the helicopter or rotate it, they spin with it. Yeah, these guys are about to have a very bad day. We're not done yet. This is where debug menu comes in. Let's go back. Backspace is your button to go back when you're holding Control Alt and Windows. And in this menu, I set multiple different things before I take each screenshot. So first and foremost, I go to Render, Analytic Lights. Make sure you have a powerful rig, because this can be pretty memory heavy. It's not really made for in-game use. But I'm gonna set the memory budget to maximum by going the opposite direction. Same with the max shadows count. Set it to maximum, and texture size maximum. There is no difference yet at the moment, as you can see. But once I enable analytic lights and override limits, the difference is subtle, but the changes sometimes can be pretty drastic when it comes to shadows, shadow detail. It's more obvious in scenes that are, for example, at night with only artificial lighting, not with sunlight. Another thing I like to set, it's not too visible in this scene, but if I was to have a scene with a larger view, like this, we have scene, and over here we have LOD multiplier, which sets our visible items to higher LOD, and size multiplier, which over here, for example, everything's so far away, it's not rendering, the camera can see it. So if I set my size multiplier to higher numbers, suddenly all of that is actually being rendered. Now you can see a lot more stuff. Even here in the foreground, you can see the rocks. If I was to set it back to a lower number, you see all of this stuff is starting to disappear because it's too far from the camera. This is very performance heavy. The frame rate will drop. You can see it already. My frame rate is somewhere around 15 right now. And it's not exactly necessary in this scene because I don't have any too many objects in the distance. Yeah, it's not really affecting anything. LOD might be affecting the helicopter itself. Let's see. Yeah, it's already changing the fidelity of the helicopter at this distance. And a last thing for shots in the distance is the terrain multiplier. So again, render, we have terrain menu, and over here I like to set my texture detail from normal to 10, which is the highest number, and it will render the terrain as if you're standing right next to it at maximum resolution. So these are my little tips on how to get the most out of your screenshots. Just make sure your computer is powerful enough to handle all of these. They can be pretty heavy. Every time you relaunch Workbench, all of these are deleted and you start fresh. Just so you don't have to redo this every single time you launch Workbench and try to take a screenshot. If you have your debug menu open, press F1. That's gonna save all of these settings, and then you can recall them by pressing F2 or go back to default by pressing delete, all while holding Control Alt Windows. And the last thing on the menu is yet to another cinematic track, and that is the camera track. It's pretty self-explanatory. This is where we set up how our camera looks. So I'm just gonna click the keyframe so my position is locked in. I'm pretty happy with this composition. You can set the FOV a slightly narrower so the scene is a bit more dynamic. Like this, for example. Now let's go back to 45. It looked okay. We have two different depth of field tracks. This is the older one where you manually set how much you want your foreground and background blurry. And this is the new one in which you set your focal length, your aperture, your focus distance. This is more akin to actual lens behavior. So we're gonna create all of those keyframes, enable it. I wanna make sure I'm focused on the guy. So I'm gonna set my f-stop to the smallest possible number. So that way the depth of field is razor thin. And now I just move my focus distance to actually match the guy. And now I can play with my f-stop to make sure I get some depth of field in there. There we go. You can also change focal length depending on your FOV. And HDR, you can set exposure to your manual. I don't use this one too much, depends on the scene. Okay. And now the magical combination, once you have your world editor view selected, it's yellow, you just press Ctrl Shift F7, and the game is going to take a 4K PNG screenshot that is saved into your profile folder in your My Documents, in your documents. Regardless of my monitor settings, I could be doing this on a 720p monitor. If I press Ctrl Shift F7, the game's gonna render everything at 4K and do the screenshot. So now we have the screenshot. Once I have the PNG, I pop it into Lightroom, for example, just for some light color adjustments, paint in some shadows to make them a little darker, you know, just some light edits. And there you go, that's your before and after. So now you really don't have to use the same reloading point of view for your thumbnails. You can use proper Reforger images for your workshop uploads, for your loading screens, for your Discord showcases. You can actually show off your mods, you can show off your content. I'm actually very excited to see what you're gonna be able to come up with after watching this tutorial. Don't forget to share it, tag us wherever you share it, if it's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Discord. And as a thank you for watching all the way to the end, here's a few little tips, a little speed round that I wasn't able to utilize in this screenshot, but that could be useful to you regardless in the future. When it comes to bone animations of some prefabs, such as compass or watches, where you have the correct name of the track that actually ties to the name of the prefab, you have the correct name of the actual bone, but when you're trying to move it, nothing is happening. And I was losing my hair over this until I figured out these items have procedural animations, which are, well, as the name implies, procedurally set. If we want to override that, we just go into procedural animation component and just disable it. And now we can move whatever we want. So that if I want to, for example, set the needle to follow north, I have this little compass up here. I will top view, I see north is this way, so I actually have it correctly set up right now. Now let's say I had it in a shot and it was like this, and I want it to be pointing north. So I have my compass, I see north is directly up, and now I can move the compass to actually correspond. Let's say it's tilted slightly, because we're holding it in the hand, so we can also tilt it so it corresponds. There we go. Yeah, and if you don't disable procedural animation component, you won't be able to move it. Same with watch hands. You see, the watch does nothing. So I need to select it, procedural animation component, disable it, and now I can. If I have a very rainy weather and I wanna just tweak it a little bit, you can do it through the weather manager, but that's a little complicated way to do it. So we can also go to the debug menu, again, Control Windows Alt, and we're gonna go to render, and over here we can change so many things. And for rain, we're just gonna find rain itself, and we can, for example, override rain density. If I set this to true, my density is set to 0, so it's not raining, and the higher I go, the stronger the rain gets, all the way up until 1. So I can make it rain a little less. It's helpful sometimes when you're taking a shot and the rain is actually drowning out what's happening on the scene. You can also override the direction. So right now it's just raining straight down. I can set it so it's raining sideways. Let's say it's very windy. I can change all of this. I can also stop time. And that means the rain, as the name implies, stays frozen in time. That helps a lot if you're doing a rainy scene and the jitter of the drops falling gets a little annoying after a while. So now you just stop time and you can work your scene and your eyes will thank you. When you're taking a picture on a vanilla terrain, which you cannot edit, you know, you can select it, but you cannot do anything about it. We say can't move locked entities. And I just want to get rid of it because I like the scene. I want to put a car in here and some guy is doing whatever, but this house is just in the way. I can select any locked entity and just press H, and that's going to hide it. Let's say I have a scene happening on this road, but I have these shadows in the way, but the trees are not in the shot. It's just the shadows are in the way. I don't want them. I can just select the trees and hide them. There we go. No more shadows. So you can hide anything from the scene even when you cannot edit it. And if you want to bring it back, you just press Ctrl H and everything that was hidden is brought back. This one ties to not being able to edit locked entities on a terrain, such as this house, for example. Let's say I want to make a little battle scene with some broken windows, but I cannot do it because it's a locked entity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the entity, copy its transformation properties, Ctrl C, Ctrl V, which places the entity, a copy of it in the terrain. I'm going to hide the original one by pressing H. Select this one, paste properties, and now have a house, the exact same house in the exact same spot, but this one is the one I put in, it's not locked. And here I can, for example, click on this window, mesh object, I see the glass here. If I just click the loop, I get navigated to the folder of the exact same glass. I found a destroyed version, and I can just replace it with a destroyed version. I do the same with this one, different variants, so they're not the same. This one, there. I can do the same with this. I can do damaged. Damaged. And this one I'm gonna do destroyed. And there we go. I have a house with broken windows on a vanilla terrain that I couldn't edit before.